6 o'clock, so let's call this meeting to order.
Roger?
Yes.
Tiffany? Yes. Lisa?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
7 present.
In our board packet this evening, there is the agenda. I need approval and adoption of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Motion by Sherry Shuvee, seconded by Tiffany Dickens to approve and adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
Next item on the agenda is board norms, and for October, I would remind everybody that we will be fully present at the meetings by becoming familiar with the materials before we arrive and by being attentive to the behaviors in which affect physical and mental engagement. I would also remind us that we will invite and welcome the contributions of every member and listen to each other. With that being said, if I could ask everybody to stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I can. Yep. And Angela just reminded me that the meeting tonight is being recorded. Thanks, Jacob. So everything is saved for prosperity's sake. So with that being said, the next item on our agenda is citizens' participation, in which we have allowed 30 minutes to be allocated to residents of the school district and staff to give the board an opportunity to listen to citizens. Remarks will be limited to 3 minutes and to one appearance, thus allowing the maximum number of participants in the allotted time for which citizens are to speak to issues. Just a reminder that questions directed to the board may not always be answered immediately. With that being said, do we have any citizens participation this evening? Yes, ma'am. And if you would announce your name.
Hi, I'm Lexi and I'm a junior at Cuba High School. I know it is on your agenda tonight to discuss a 4-day school week. I wasn't given the opportunity as a student to take the survey that was circulated, so I'm here tonight to give you a few thoughts. When I was in elementary and middle school, I never imagined I would have to come and fight to be able to come to school for 5 days. I know you have pros and cons for this decision, and to some it may seem all shiny and enticing, but from my perspective, as well as my 12-year-old brother and many other students I've spoken with, we do not think this is best for kids, which should be your main focus, right? With the data I have recorded from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Cuba schools have the lowest test scores of almost all surrounding schools. From this data, you would think that we would almost need to add a day to our school week rather than take one away. I ask that you take into consideration students' perspectives before making your decision, which hasn't been done at this point. I also ask that you thoroughly take your time and don't make a quick decision on this. Roughly 1,300 students will be affected by this, as well as teachers and our community. I still can't believe that I'm ending my high school career fighting to go to school 5 days a week.
Do we have other citizens participation? There are several hands, so Julie.
Oh, I know everybody in this room. I still got butterflies.
Good evening. My name is Julie Monroe, and I'm here to ask you to continue recognizing valedictorians and salutatorians from the graduating classes at Cuba High. I watched my daughter's face fall at freshman orientation when it was announced that the school would no longer be celebrating this achievement for students, starting with her graduating class. Alex would be here tonight, but she's off delivering her own speech for FFA. We talked a lot about it, and she recognized that she might make educational choices that would put her out of the running for top honors, but she still maintained they should be recognized. Over the last 3 years, we've made several attempts to change this decision. We understand how stressful education is and wanted to be respectful, so we tried to tread lightly and not push too hard, but now here we are, senior year. We are out of time. I have followed the proper chain of command in coming here this evening, contacting both the building principal and the superintendent. So please know this is a humble attempt to help you see the other side of this issue. I hope you will reverse the previous decision to exempt these honors from our commencement ceremonies. Some of you are parents of students who have received this honor in the past. I have no doubt you felt very proud of your child for challenging him or herself by taking advanced classes and working hard to excel in them. By recognizing the highest achieving students in the class, our school district sends the message that it too celebrates such attributes. I recognize that it is a trend in education to do away with this honor. Admittedly, in cases of big schools where there are more than 10 who tie for that top honor, perhaps a different form of recognition is appropriate. But that isn't the case here. Yes, there may be a student who misses the mark by the smallest of margins, and Alex says that may be her if calculus gets the better of her. But we would still believe the recognition should happen. As a school, we honor so many things: excellence in sports, court-warming, homecoming and prom royalty, even teacher MVPs. We celebrate a lot of things, but now we are eliminating one of the few ways that we exalt our scholars. I believe we are sending a message that it isn't noteworthy to excel. It's commendable to do well, and we will celebrate that with the Latin honor system. But we are taking away one of the few things academically invested students have to strive for. I believe by doing this, we are saying that there is nothing special about going the extra mile academically. I don't think that's what we are about, but it looks that way to these kids. Alex will graduate in May and will have a strong start because of the work ethic she developed here. It will be very disappointing, but she will be okay if you don't publicly recognize the top scholars for a job well done. Some people's kids dream of being the baseball star. Mine aspired to be the valedictorian, and she has been better for it. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
My name is Pitts Lassane. I've only been here a couple of years, but I'm very involved in my grandkids, a lot of sports activities, school, and so forth. But I speak from the heart. I don't prepare a list or any of that kind of stuff. When I found out that you were considering a 4 versus a 5 work week, I went online and I read a lot of the data, a lot of the push behind it for the small schools mainly. There's not very many of your larger schools that actually participate in this program because they have the money to pay their teachers. And a lot of the push is if we go to a 4 week, we can attract teachers. That's actually not the case. If you do the whole homework and the research, it doesn't attract teachers, but it does help retain teachers in small communities. If it does attract a teacher, does it necessarily mean that we're attracting the quality of the teachers that we want to bring here? Or are we bringing a teacher here just because we're at a 4-day work week, not a 5-day work week, since the pay's not where it needs to be? So all I'm asking for you to do tonight is not make a decision tonight, just like when we brought the other things up in a couple other school board meetings. I ask that you hesitate because the data is going to be presented today, and I think Dr. Davison will do a fine job of presenting the data. Give us time to process what's given to us today. Nothing's going to take place until 2023, am I correct? Anybody on the board can confirm that 2023 this decision will be yes? No? I can tell you it'll be 2023. So there's no hurry here tonight. All we need to do, see the facts, let us process it for a month. At next school board meeting, have your vote. But let the parents, the citizens of this community that pay the taxes, that make sure that this school continues doing what it does on a daily basis, whether it's to the highest level of testing or whether it's the lowest level of testing, doesn't matter. Give us the time to process what's going to be given to us today. Give us till the next month because nothing's going to happen until 2023. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jenny Whitaker. I have a student in your school, your public school. I just wanted to come and speak about the 4-day. I received an email from Dr. Davidson to do the survey. I looked at the survey, I did the survey. It was 4 questions. There was no neutral in the middle ground. I was very, I felt rushed. I felt like I had to hurry up and do this survey, so I completed it. I'm not really happy with the results of how I ended up turning it in, because then after the fact, I had more time to go back and look at the research that needs to be done. I also agree that I haven't had time to do the research. I'm an extremely busy person. My child is not really in favor of this. I'm not actually in favor of it for the community. I wanted to pick more of a neutral thing because I thought that this would take longer. I don't know what the rush is. I don't understand why we need to make a decision today. I feel like the people in this community haven't even really, I didn't even have a chance to digest all of this information. So I'm going to ask that you table this, and I would table it longer than a month. I feel like people need time. It is the holiday season. It is a busy time. I don't know why you're rushing into trying to make a decision that affects so many people. Really, that's all I came to say. So I hope you take it into consideration. I hope you take into consideration that the survey was really kind of poor, in my opinion. And maybe you can put another one out. Maybe you need to get more feedback. I don't even know how many surveys you received. I haven't seen that information. I get it from the Cuba paper. I haven't seen your information to say that you even had a good results to be able to pick that apart. So that's just my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Do we have anybody else that would like to address the board this evening?
I just got braces today, so hopefully I can tell you. I feel really weird, but my name is Terry Schneider. I have a freshman and a senior this year. I don't have a speech, but I would also like to ask that you reconsider the valedictorian and salutatorian acknowledgement at graduation. I too have a daughter who is, top of her class, and they work really hard for that, and so I would just like you to reconsider that. And I would also like you to not approve the 4-day school week. There's a lot of parents that work 5 days a week, and I know that it says, that there'll be more family time, but really there won't be. Unfortunately, kids will be home alone a lot of that time if they're older, or they have to find childcare on those days that they're not in school. And then another thing I would like to ask is if it's possible to start posting the agenda for the meetings prior to the meetings, so that like on the school Facebook page, things like that, so that parents can be aware of what's going to take place. They can kind of prepare and know, the things that are going to be discussed for that meeting, and also go back to set schedules for the meetings so that we know when they are. They've kind of been all over the place lately, and I haven't been able to keep up and attend because I haven't realized when they were. They used to be like a set Tuesday of the month or something like that. So if we could go back to set meetings so that everybody in the community knows when they are exactly and can attend. That's all.
Is there any other citizen that would like to talk to us? Chris?
I'm going to go way under my 3 minutes. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. My name is Chris Bell. I have 2 kids in the school district. I graduated from the school district. It seems like there's a lot of sentiment about the 4-day week. We've also have a recent survey about the Satchel Pulse program. I think any of those programs just going forward that are significant portions of our education system, I think there needs to be more community input. As even people who don't have kids in school, taxpayers, they pay for the school district. So they should have an input like on the 4-day week. I would also like to see more research when we're given a survey. I would like to see the research that the school has done on a program, on a 4-day, on the Satchel Pulse. We went through a deal about 2 years ago with a deal called Newsella, and the school implemented it. We found out afterwards it was a very poor program, and the school exited from it. Go to us for, let us help you. Make us help you with decisions that affect our kids, because you guys sit up there and you try to make the best decisions for the community and for the kids, but we all want to fight for our own kids. We're gonna, we'll fight to the end for mine, and we can have good discussions and have a little more community involvement in some of this stuff. That's all I got.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board this evening? Going once? Going twice? All right. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda items. Those items are in your board packets. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? Or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Second. Motion by Roger Bridgman, seconded by Lisa Elrod, to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
Next item on our agenda is the financial statements and action on the bills. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or do I have a motion to approve the financial statement and action on the bills to be as presented?
Sean, motion.
Second.
Motion by Sean Siebert, seconded by Roger Bridgman, to approve the financial statement and action on the bills as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
Next item is administrative reports. First item, board and committee reports. Sherry?
Just to let you know that I did go to the MSBA board meeting. The day before that board meeting, I've been asked to be on the ad hoc committee, which looks basically at how MSBA is run, dues are paid and all. So, it was more of an informational meeting than anything else. At MSBA, they did talk a little bit about the consortium of State School Boards Association, which is probably going to take the place of the National School Board Association after everything they went through the past couple of years. Missouri School, MSBA is actually pretty heavily involved in getting that started. They have about, NSBA had some more states drop out, and I think they've picked up some more. I don't have a lot of information on it because they didn't really give that much. Just more of an update on what's been happening, but that's basically it.
Snapshot.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there any other committee or board reports that we need to share? I don't know of any others. So we will move into the building principal reports. In your packet is a report from each of our 3 schools. We'll start off at the elementary school, and I'll ask Mr. Cross, do you have anything in addition, or?
Not too much has popped up since I turned it in, so unless you guys have some questions for me.
Questions? Or we will move right to the middle school. That report is also in there. Thank you very much. Do you have any additions or clarifications? Do we have any questions on the middle school report? Well, I'll go right to the high school. That report's in there also. I read it. Do we have any questions or updates, additions since last week?
Been busy.
Also in our packet is a report from the special education director. Do you have any amendments, modifications, additions?
We have a date set for the on-site visit, January 25th, 26th, and 27th. So, got a call from Desi, so that's it.
Any questions about any of the information in that report?
I appreciate the data and the insight that each of you put in there. I read it, learn a lot from it, so thanks for taking the time to do it together.
Next item is student representative report. Caitlin, tell me what's going on over in the high school.
Yeah, definitely. So the softball team season ended. They had a great game against St. Francis Borgia. And then the volleyball team last night defeated Bourbon, and it was their senior night. It was their last home game. The FFA chapter is traveling to National Convention next week, which is starts on the 26th. There's also dance tryouts going on next week. The cross-country team this past Monday, we traveled to Vienna, and Caden Spasham took 13th, Max Jones took 3rd, Noah Halbert took 4th. GVC Choir came and performed for the middle school and high school today, and they did an amazing job. Our last football game is this Friday, and it's senior night for football, band, and cross-country. In all of our fall sports in total, we have 27 seniors, which some of those are multiples with sports and band. Band and drill team traveled to Ashland for SBMC this weekend, and they placed second. First in music, and the drill team placed first overall. And last Friday, the drill team had their alumni performance, and it went extremely well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. There's a lot of good things happening. Next item is assistant superintendent report.
Yeah. I have one thing to add to my report. At the last board meeting, Mrs. Schutte had asked about Imagination Library. That is part of Senate Bill 681. They created an Imagination Library of Missouri program through the Office of Childhood at DESE. So that actually does not go into effect until the 2023-2024 school year. And we will be getting information from the Office of Childhood on how to proceed with that. So at this time, there's nothing for the district to do to opt into that program. You're welcome.
Did anybody have any questions of the information in the report? Thank you. With that being said, we will move into the superintendent's report.
So nothing to add to the report. I do want to mention for anyone in the audience, I do have my business card over here, and you're more than welcome to take one. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available to answer any questions, have conversation, get information. I've sent some sitting here in the audience some information, so if you have a opposing viewpoint, I want to hear to not miss anything, regardless of issues this evening or any upcoming issues. Again, feel free to contact me. I always want to make sure to hear those voices, so wanted to share that. But one thing that has also hit my desk today to add to the report, the city worked on some ordinances that just got approved last night. So our administrators are working on notification of parents to send out. So this ordinance does give, it's with minors in possession of tobacco. So we've had several vaping issues. When the law was written, vapes weren't out there. The laws were missing that due to a technicality. There is now an ordinance the city just approved last night. So our administrative team is going to send out notification tomorrow. I've got a copy of it. It's not signed officially, but we'll get a signed copy to you with that notification, and then we'll start enforcing it Monday. So just so the board's aware, this gives our SROs an ordinance to follow up with that. So we've noticed that's a huge uptick in use in middle school, high school. So, for sure.
See if my board members have any questions for Dr. Davidson? Or can we move right into unfinished business? Talk to me about the 2022-2023 budget updates.
Yep. So our budget, I put it in there holding steady. It's actually going to show an increase in reserves due to our ESSER 2 funds, which we're getting in for this year. So that's going to increase, but again, those are one-time money. So then we have to be cautious of what we do with that, because once it's spent, it's gone. We're in a good financial state, but just looking at some things, we still have the General Assembly's considering some incentives here that would reduce the state revenues. While they're good personally for individuals as a public entity, I don't know how these won't affect us. We were initially told by legislators that this won't affect public ed. I've had some conversations with different ones that are now starting to backtrack and say, yes, this is going to affect. So what they're looking at is reducing the top individual income tax rate, increasing the standard deduction for individuals by $2,000 and $4,000 for married joint filers, and eliminating the bottom income tax bracket. Again, not personally a bad thing, but professionally for public ed, that's estimated to take out $1.2 billion, not million, but $1.2 billion of state revenue. So that's what we get our money from for the state formula. Just received an update. The state is also considering a reduction in state corporate income taxes, and this will have a direct impact on public education. So they are flat coming out and saying if that goes through, this will take money from the schools. But all those things will be discussed in the General Assembly when it convenes in January.
One thing that they did, and I forgot about this until you said this, that they did talk about MSBA was, this last year was the first year they fully funded. And they're saying it probably won't happen, but then it was also brought up, I don't know if this is right or not, and I haven't looked into it. They said according to the Hancock Amendment, once they fully fund it, they cannot take away money from the formula for schools.
I'd have to get more information on it.
Yeah, I haven't got any more.
To me, that doesn't sound that correct.
But that's what someone had brought up. I just haven't had time to look for it, but I don't know if that's something, I don't know. I mean, that could maybe be, not that'd be
We
great.
count on
But,
money.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So with that piece too, the fully funded for transportation, for example, is at 75%, not 100%. So fully funded means 75%.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So with that, talking to DESI Finances, they've also said be cautious with that because they are pretty sure they underestimated the fuel cost. And so that fully funded is not going to be fully funded, even at 75%. So we'll get our first payout tomorrow for me to be able to verify, are we getting 75%, 70%, 65% on an estimated what the other payouts will be. So
I just think there's gonna be a kind of a argument between different ones up there when this all starts happening. And I'm afraid schools ain't caught in the middle of it.
Last year also.
So last piece of the finances, in November, I'll do a budget amendment. So I've been tracking everything. We've had some very minor changes that'll be recommended for budget amendments. So we're still on track with all that. So I monitor with a close eye everything we do.
Next item is, there are a whole bunch of policy updates in your board packets.
Yeah.
Really boring questions.
These are boring.
And so I hope everybody has had the chance to read 400 policy changes. Not 400, but there's several. And are there any questions or any concerns, or do I have a motion to adopt the policy and regulations as presented?
I will make a motion.
Motion by Sean Siebert, seconded by Jennifer Moreland, to approve and adopt the following policies and regulations as presented. Policies 0320, 412, 1210, 1725, 2550, 2670, 2876, 4130, 4150, 4515, 4630, 4645, 5205, 6118, 6119, 6190, 6191, 6215, 6251, and 6273. And regulations 2240, 2785, 2876, 4515, 5620, 6190, 6191, 6215, and regulation 6251. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
And now I think what's anxiously awaited is we need to take a look at the 4-day school week. Dr. Davidson, I think, has about 42 pages or 44 pages of slides. 46? Something.
Yeah, so to prep everyone, I want to do a thorough job to give information, pros, cons, background, everything here. I'll present it on the board here once it's full stuff. Mr. Roman, says the application's already. Alright. So in listening to Patreon comments as well, I'll try to answer questions as I go through this. But again, it's going to take some time, so we'll walk through here. So 4-day school week information. How this idea gets started for CCR2. Looking at, we have many schools similar to us have transitioned to a 4-day week. There have been a growing interest in a 4-day week over the past few years. Parents and staff members have asked for us to investigate this as a possibility for next year. So why are we exploring the 4-day week? So reasons, going back to districts similar to our size, have found that this creates a more consistent yearly schedule, ability to attract and retain staff, more quality time for families, increased instructional time, improved attendance, student work opportunities, fewer substitute teachers needed, a reduction in some district expenditures. For example, for our district, so to share with you, I'm very purpose-driven, and we're not doing this or looking at this because others are. We're doing it to see if this is a good fit for our school district and our situation here. So for an example, fewer substitute teachers needed. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were needing 7 substitute teachers at the high school. We had 2. So our staff all day long covered those other 5 teaching positions by rotating on their plan period. So as I present this, I'm going to share the obstacles that we have currently for our school district, as well as hopefully educate board, audience members on just the unfortunate reality of where we're at in public education today. So this is a map of 4-day districts 4 years ago. So we can see kind of a geographical location of these districts. Again, a lot of urban area schools do not participate in a 4-day schedule because they have a large enough tax base or industrial industry in their area that their starting salaries come out at $38,000, $40,000, $42,000, $46,000. These other areas that are represented do not have that tax base to do that. So that's where we see this year. We have several more districts who have been added to the state. So I'm looking at, there's 141 Missouri school districts now use a 4-day week calendar. Some places I found 146. I went conservatively with 141. There's 560 school districts in the state of Missouri. But just going conservatively with 141, this is 25% of school districts using a 4-day week. There has only been one school that's gone back to a 5-day week after making the change. And there are several districts even this year, just like we are, looking at a 4-day school week. So going to what steps have been occurred to collect data. There were surveys conducted specific to the 4-day school week. So there's 3 of them, and I'll get to that towards the end of the presentation. I met with small groups across the district. I met with some groups from the community. Had before school meeting and after school meeting to get input and gather feedback. And then a sample calendar was shared for the 4-day week. The interesting thing, now that there's 141 districts doing a 4-day school week, there's 141 different 4-day school week calendar options. So prior to more schools doing it, there was kind of just a one cookie cutter idea. But for 13 years now, this has been out there, and so it's proven for these other districts to be successful for them. And again, we're looking at it for, is this what's good for Cuba, Missouri, not doing it because other districts are doing it. So this is something to kind of wrap your mind around. When making a switch to a 4-day calendar, school districts maintain the same number of instructional minutes with students and teachers working longer days. So the state went from days to hours, so now our calendars are based on 1,044 hours of instructional minutes. We add 60 hours in there to build in snow days, essentially. So that puts us at 1,104 hours is what a calendar is. So when we look at that instructional time, that is not lost. So it's converting the days to the minutes. Even in a 5-day calendar, there is several variances in 5-day calendars, just depending on what days different districts want to take off, what their hourly or daily schedule is. So it's kind of an accordion how many days they have. So just looking at the comments, because comments were collected as well, people are for it because of the consistency it will create, flexibility of having a longer weekend to do things as a family, the opportunity to schedule appointments on Mondays and avoid missing school days, allowing kids to have extra day with parents, grandparents, an extra day for high school kids to work or job shadow. So out of the comments, a lot of people are against it because childcare could or would be an issue. Kids don't have access to free meals. That is different from what we're used to. The later dismissal will create less family time in the evenings. The long days could create student fatigue. Long weekends will be hard to recoup. For a Tuesday, getting younger athletes to and from Monday practice may be an issue. So what is the same in the calendars? So we would still have roughly a 2-week Christmas break. Wednesday through Friday we would be off for Thanksgiving. We'd have a Good Friday off. I was just searching around the other day and found and I would have put this in the email I sent out, but just found a district has a spring break in one of their 4-day week calendars. I thought was pretty interesting how they arranged that. But again, all snow days are built in, so there's no makeup days. So the pros, looking at staff recruitment and retention, improved attendance, consistent schedule, additional time for cleaning and maintenance. So with the cleaning and maintenance right now, we are short-staffed in our custodial department. They clean what's necessary, but they don't have time to do deep cleaning or additional cleaning. So this would give them an opportunity to get that work completed. There are some reduced costs with busing and utilities. So since we're not looking at this strictly just from a financial perspective, we're not going to be cutting people's salaries or our employees. We're going to try to minimize any kind of impact that would have on them. Longer instructional time, project-based learning. To share some background with me, I was a building principal at an elementary school in Montgomery County. They were, I think, 3rd in the state to go to a 4-day week. I was there for 4 years, and so the building I was in was pre-K, 5th grade. In 3 years' time in that building, was able to lead that building to hit 100% on APR and academics. So, and in doing that, only 12% of buildings or administrators can ever say they've done that. But some of the positives we found, the longer instructional time, we actually found that teachers were able to go more in depth in academics to cover the content area better. There was also teachers and students knew, hey, it's 4 days, so we're serious, we're here with a purpose, so when we're here, we're learning. Another benefit was that research will show you that when students are engaged in content, they're less likely to misbehave, so behaviors went down. But again, to get the academic piece to it, also you have to look at your programming, so your curriculum resources, your evaluations from your administrators, you're looking at data, reorganizing your response to interventions. It's a process. It's continuing to do the best practices. We do those now, but again, it's with intention and purpose that we stay focused on that. So continued benefits, parents can schedule appointments for days off. One of the things we're looking at is a Monday. So there's 2 reasons why a Monday. One, your national holidays fall on a Monday. So if you had, say, off on a Friday and a national holiday was a Monday, it makes the schedule goofy to where you would have a Tuesday through Friday, and then a 2-day weekend, and then you're back to a Monday through Friday. So it accordions that. But also for scheduling appointments, more doctors' offices are open all day on Monday versus on Friday. Sometimes they're closed or it's a half a day. So for that benefit for staff to make appointments for themselves or for parents to make appointments for their children, those actually are utilized for that. So we keep the teacher in the classroom who's going to be the highly qualified educator to do so. And we allow students not to miss that instructional time because there's time for them to go to appointments. More quality family time is on there. So I know we have a lot of families that are active in sports and clubs, organizations, work, academics. As adults, we go, go, go. As students, we go, go, go. Having just a 3rd day in there to actually get a day to decompress is found for a 4-day week. Increased teacher PD time throughout the year. Our current 5-day calendar, we have 4 half-days for teachers and educators to do professional development. On a 4-day work schedule, there's actually 10 full days for teachers to come in and grow professionally. And so one of the slides I'll get to is we're having a lot younger or we're getting more applicants with less experience. So that professional development is crucial to help hire somebody in, and then if they don't have the skill set, teach and train them to be a better educator for our students. So that it's just a very nice structure that way, and it's consistent from month to month. High school students have a full day to work or job shadow. So going back to, and this is looking at stuff K-12, so this might not be until a student's 16, 17, they have a job, but it allows them to work on Monday during the day, which for them could be beneficial, so they're not working in the evenings, getting off from school, running to a job, and then trying to do homework. They could actually have a full day Monday. And I'll get to it, but some of the responses from businesses that would be beneficial for them to have somebody they could have to employ for a Monday. The worker job shadowing And another thing with the 4-day weeks, the key point is just flexibility. So one of the ideas started brainstorming with working with the Cuba Development Group. We have a lot of industry in town. Not all of our high school graduates go to a 4-year college or university. Some go to a trade school, but not all do that either. We have some that just go straight into the workforce. We've got a very good industrial base here in town that has their own training programs. But just brainstorming an idea could be, if they have somebody they want to send to school here, we could offer them a classroom, or that student can have an opportunity to train for that company's second semester of their senior year, to then once they graduate could go right into the workforce here in our community. So the cons here, school schedule does not match parents' work, longer days, Monday sports practice for non-drivers, students relying on school meals will miss this resource on a Monday, difficult with 1 day of childcare. So these are cons. Beside of these two, the longer days, we're looking at essentially maybe 15-minute earlier start in the morning and only a 30-minute, going 30 minutes later in the afternoon. So you're looking at a 45-minute additional day. Sports practices for non-drivers. So in some of these districts, a lot of it the parents figure out, or the athletes figure it out. But in some cases, maybe middle school sports, they do only have for the first 14 days, they'll want to get their practices in, so they make sure they get those on Mondays. But some schools go to just Tuesday through Friday. But again, this is all flexible, and this is stuff we're looking at. So some of these things, as I'm talking about, we don't have 100% clear exactly this is exactly what's going to be. But even in a 5-day schedule right now, if there's something that's not working, we don't keep doing it. We get together, we meet, we discuss, and come up with solutions. So as I'm kind of going through these are just options and ideas, so this would take time to vet out. Going to the students relying on school meals, we'll miss this resource on a Monday. So they would, as far as eating in the cafeteria, but we have a food program right now that we have food home on for Saturdays and Sundays. We would just increase that to have a 3-day food program to where they get food on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We've got some generous donators in our community who've already kind of spoken to us about this and reached out. So a solution there to that. Difficulty with 1 day of childcare. So it's a con there. In Montgomery County, the daycare areas thought that they were going to get an increase in student attendance or child attendance on Mondays. So they hired staff for Mondays. What they found out was that there were other parents who maybe worked the weekend and was off Monday, Tuesday, or there was a grandparent or aunt or uncle or a neighbor or friend. Essentially what they had to let those people go that they hired because there was other options and solutions. A lot of people figured out other avenues of daycare on that Monday. And a lot of other districts have found that as well. So 5-day or week pros, traditional schedule that students and parents are accustomed to. I get it, it's traditional. One of the things I talk to new staff about, new teachers about, we always want to go back and reflect on how we grew up, what our experience was. I read a parenting article just for my own personal children and myself. The article talked about quit trying to raise your kids the way you grew up, because today's world is not the world that we grew up in, it's different. So that makes me step back and reflect and go, you know what? Need to step back and look at that. You know, again, we look at the 5-day work schedule. If you look back at time, we go 9 months out of the year, and all 3 months, that's based on our agricultural industry. 150 years ago, those 3 months off were so kids could work at home on the farm and get crops in, crops out. When we look at the Monday through Friday 8 to 4 mindset, that's based on the Industrial Revolution, essentially prepping kids to go from high school right into factories to work. And right now we're in the year 2022, to where we're in a much different place. COVID's taught us that a lot of employees said, hey, we don't have to have you come into the office to work. You have flex time, you can work from home. Heard on a radio station a couple of weeks ago, a lot of workplaces are moving to a 4-day work schedule just because that's how they're trying to attract and retain employees. Not just in public ed, but just in general, the workforce and all that has changed. So again, you know, the 5-day, when you have meals, sure we have a cafeteria open, we can have meals Monday through Friday, and there's less chance for childcare costs to parents. Possible benefits, you have a shorter day, looking at about a 45-minute difference. Shorter weekend break, less chance for learning loss. Matches area schools. Here in our area, we have Crawford County R1 at Bourbon. Went to a 4-day last week, and last year was doing it for a second year this year. We have Stillville to the south of us here looking at it as well. So we're kind of in the mix. The larger districts are a 5-day, smaller similar districts are a 4-day, or will be moving towards it. Is there to accommodate sports practice and schedules on a 5-day week. So the cons, a less consistent schedule. If you look at the yearly calendars, there's a lot of differences. There's some 2-day weeks, 3-day weeks, 4-day weeks. It just varies considerable there. Nothing to create a distinction for a district that can help attract and retain staff. Comments in talking to others saying, well, if everybody else is doing it, where's the incentive? To me, the incentive would be, well, the incentive is to go to a 4-day week. If you're a 5-day and I can go to a 4-day, I'm going to go to the 4-day. Only to in here with the cleaning, we're only able to maintain a routine cleaning process. Again, we're short-staffed in our custodial department there. More attendance issues arise related to appointments, less flexibility for families. So this is something where you look at a 4-day week could increase, not decrease instructional time. Depends on what building schedule you look at. But every day you're going to have the same amount of minutes for lunch, transitions, going from class to class. We have 7-hour in a day for class periods, so you're going to transition between those. But again, going back to, and in my experience as well, you're going to add, say, a 50-minute hour class. You could add 7 minutes to that, so now you have 57 minutes with the same amount of transitional time. So you're actually increasing your instructional time. Again, it goes back to allowing teachers to get more in-depth in content with students. So that's maybe taking a few more minutes to go longer into a concept with whole group instruction. Maybe another group, small group that they could get to and rotate through with those students in time. More time for guided practice with those students, and or help with overseeing what they're doing with independent work. So again, calendar years, whether a 5-day or 4-day, are based on 1,044 hours of instructional time, and or we would have 1,104 hours with snow days built on. All right, how's a 4-day week more consistent? Kind of touched on this a little bit. In a 5-day calendar, there's 3-day weekends, 4-day weekends, long breaks, etc. Moving nearly all days off, being strictly on Mondays, makes it easy for families to plan around the school calendar and provides more routine for our students. Why won't a 4-day week help us more financially? So again, we're not doing this to try to save we'll have some savings, but it's not the end goal. Some districts do it strictly because they have to save money. So we're looking at saving anywhere from 1% to less than 5% of the annual budget. So again, we're not going to decrease teacher pay. We're going to look at our classified folks who do hourly to make sure they're not impacted severely. And I've got some slides here towards the end. I'll show you where we could apply some of our savings to help. Actually, one of the issues we're facing right now with the hourly wages. One of our biggest savings that we do have is our transportation system. So just the fuel cost alone, the repairs on those buses. Buses themselves used to be $80,000. They've now jumped up to $120,000 per bus. We, as the board, approved a purchase of a bus last spring. It's projected to get built this February, pending they have the parts to build the bus. So there's a shortage of buses, so just reducing some wear and tear could be beneficial here in the next couple of years until that corrects itself. So I'm concerned about childcare. Do I have any options? So again, kind of touched on this. A lot of schools that went to a 4-day week schedule found that a lot of parents found other means to provide childcare for those children, and then by November everything was discounted due to minimum, or discontinued due to a minimum attendance. There are some community area churches and organizations that may assist with the program. So we've got some organizations in the area too. We could reach out to you and speak with them about that. And if you'd like, feel free. This is a long presentation, so you're welcome to step out if you like. And if you'd like a copy of this, you can put your email address on the sign-in sheet, and I'll send you a copy. We're taking away learning time from students. How will we make it up? Again, it's about the hours, not on days, so no time is taken from the students with instructional minutes. How will this help students? So we have studies that show academic achievement is not significantly impacted by the 4-day week. Studies do show that attendance rates in a 4-day week are higher than 5-day school weeks. Overwhelmingly, studies show that parents like a 4-day week schedule and feel it benefits their families. Many older students work, and the 4-day week could give them an opportunity to work on a Monday and then not have to carry as many late shifts during the remainder of the week. Also, job shadowing programs could be implemented on Mondays. So again, the argument that academics will go down, I've had professional experience where they've actually gone up. And again, with the instructional time, people say, well, my kid's going to learn less. I don't think they'll learn less. I think they'll learn the same with some opportunity to increase that. So again, that comes back just to our programming, all of our best practices we have in place. How are we doing what we need to do as a school to make that happen? Okay, will the summer school schedule be a 4 or 5 day? So this year, if we did choose to go to a 4-day week for next year, we would continue the 5-day program through the summer school since that calendar's been put out there. But then next year it would reflect the 4-day week. Will we go to a block schedule? That we would not, and again, we're not doing that. So we have right now 50-minute periods at the high school, so that could be essentially a 50 to 60-minute period there. Okay, will the teachers cover all of the content? The same grade level content and course content will still be covered over the course of the school year. Teachers will begin planning for this change as soon as a decision is made. The extra PD days will ensure that teachers plan accordingly and stay on track. And then what will happen at the school on days off? Currently, our custodians clean nightly after each school day. The Mondays off, staff will continue to work, but be able to do more in-depth cleaning and sanitation. So that's for our custodial. Our maintenance as well would be able to get into classrooms and complete work orders for the things we have going on there. Teachers will have more PD days than the 5-day schedule to allow for more collaboration, data analysis, planning, and learning for those other teachers, again, that professional development. So we have students that attend Rolla Technical Institute. I've reached out to them. They have other districts that are on a 4-day week. So we could either transport those students Monday through Friday like we do currently, or they have an option, students could do work online and then on Monday and then attend Tuesday through Friday. An option for those students with them already working on going into the workforce, they may have a job. I highly suspect most have a job, so they could, if they wanted to do the online learning on Monday and work a full day Monday, they could, and then do training. So it's just, again, flexibility, options to do some things a little different. What impact would this have on sports? We'll host as many events on Tuesday through Friday as possible, but games at home and away will still continue to be held on some Mondays. So coaches have greater flexibility with Monday practices. At the middle school level, there could be less Monday practices and sometimes optional practices. So we could still have events on Monday. It's not saying we're not doing anything on Monday. We just have to look at schedules. We have contracts with our other districts, and our AD works on that. Coaches are excited about this. We have coaches that come in on Sunday and watch game film for Monday. We have some coaches, if you're building a program, you could have a varsity coach be able to watch the junior varsity coach come in and see how they're building their program, give them some feedback there. So again, just some flexibility with that. Why Mondays instead of Fridays? I covered that earlier with the national holidays, and then more doctors are open on Mondays. What about students needing school lunches? That went over that as well. We'll just increase the amount of food that we send home with those students with food bags. One of the things that I consider in Montgomery County, we were at 70% free and reduced lunch population. Here we're at 55, so we were 15% higher with a higher needs population there. We knew who the students were to reach out to. Some of the families we reached out to, they took assistance, some didn't. Either way was fine, but we wanted to make sure everything was met with those students and families. Here we have a social worker that is well aware of families in our districts. We have a parents as teacher that's involved. We have a school-based therapist, and our counselors are highly involved. So we've got a good feel on who in the community needs it. But again, it's up to you. If they want assistance, we can provide it. If they don't, then that's fine as well. So I put in here just some survey comments, and I'll just let you read those. Kind of like we do in class, thumbs up if we're doing that. So the next slide we'll get into will be the survey results. So again, 3 were sent out. The first one I'll show was sent out to, and it was sent to our Chambers has a group email address that has 150 plus businesses in the area. It was sent out to them for feedback. Something I thought was interesting, I was at a meeting 4 weeks ago. Commissioner Margie Van Dieven, Commissioner of Education, in that meeting shared, because Desi's always curious, working with legislators and public education, so they looked into, in any given district in the state, how many people have students in the school. So what they found, with people living longer and having fewer children, would anyone like to take a guess what the percentage of the community had kids in school in any given district in the state? Anybody want to throw a number out? No idea.
45%. 25.
Okay, so the percent was 25. And when I heard that, I'm like, that's not right. But then that has stuck in my mind that the state of Missouri, the Department of Education operates on 25% of your population has kids in school. Because they're looking at how are these issues that come up, why are they not as urgent? But when you think about 75% of people in our community, not that they maybe don't care about school, but they just don't have any direct connection to it. Their kids have already been through school, or they don't have children, or it's just not an area of concern. Because I was curious why, so when I show you this, the community results, it went out to 150 different businesses, but on here it had 13 responses. So when I reflected back on the commissioner's statistic of only 25% of your community have, well, okay, that may explain the results. So in here, you have essentially right there at top, I would be in favor of a 4-day school week. So 53.9% of those business owners would be in favor, 46.1% was against. And these surveys had a scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 being the lowest, 4 being the highest. Positive impact shuffled a little bit between the scale at the bottom, but it ended up right there. Positive impact, 53.9% for, does not see a benefit, 46.1%. Student work opportunity, 53.9% for. No student work opportunity, 46.1%. So some business owners said that'd be great, we're short employees, Monday, that would help us. Had some other businesses come in and meet with me just to get more information. They said they have, one shared that they have a student from Bourbon who comes in and works for them on a Monday, and it works out well for them. Also had some considerations though, concerned if their employee didn't have child care for that Monday, their employee might stay home. So they shared both benefits and concerns there. So with the community survey as well, had 2 individuals reach out. One was interested about the survey, but as I talked to the individual, they realized they had a daughter who had a survey, and so he said, great, I'll make sure that she gets that filled out to get input there. Had one other community member reach out and say, I don't like it, I don't like the concept, and voice that to me, so that was there. But I had several other just parent emails and phone calls and interactions, and was available that way. 4-day parent or guardian survey results. So this came back here. We had 225 responses. Down at the bottom, I put that 32% of our student population was represented in these responses here. And that's a conservative number at 32%, because on the survey, one of the questions asked, do you have 1, 2, 3, 4 or more children? So I just tallied up the totals there. So some of those, the 4 or more, we have some families that have 5, 6, 7. I think one actually has 12. So that could be higher, but again, I'm pretty conservative, so I went with just 32. But statistically, that makes a valid and reliable survey result here. But looking at in favor of a 4-day week, those that responded, 72.9% were in favor. Those who were not in favor was at 27.1. Interesting, the next slide, when looking at would it positively impact families, that actually increased to 74.2%, would not positively impact families, 25.8. So that one actually went up.
I guess they don't.
So 4-day staff survey results have been broken out by elementary, middle school, high school, transportation, custodial, and maintenance. So we have 157 total employees. We're at, and that's not counting substitute teachers with them, we're closer to 200. But we had 108 responses, so well over 50% on that. I can let you know I did not respond to the survey because whether we're a 4-day or a 5-day, I'm here to serve the district. So again, what position are you? Support staff, teacher, administrator is in there. So results for our staff, are you in support of a 4-day week? We have 90.8%, and those who are not at 99.2%. So that is essentially on the no's for 9. 2 individuals, after they voted no, came and spoke to me, and I gave them more information. They said, can I change my vote? And I said, well, you get 1 vote, it's in there, so there it is. But that's where we're at on that for staff. So overwhelmingly, staff are very interested in it. When we get to teacher retention, I had 3 staff say, Dr. Davidson, maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I've already started looking for jobs, other jobs in districts. But with the idea of a 4-day, I'll stay on if it goes there. So for what that's worth, 3 individuals shared that with me. So from my seat as a superintendent, this is where we have to really look at, is this best for our school district? Because again, it's very purposeful. It's not just someone else is doing it, so we're going to do it. This is, what's the rationale, why? So when we look at our teacher base pay is $34,639. So right now, the Missouri teacher minimum salary grant is at $38,000. So if you've heard Governor Parsons speak about $38,000 minimum salary, that was enacted this year, but that was at 60% funding, and the district is funding the other 40%. So that was not a 100% funded grant. That was a 60-40 split. Parsons is in office next year, so more likely that will be here next year, which is great. One of the things to consider on our pay scale, so this is where we get teachers in and then they go. Even at the $38,000, so we hire a first-year teacher, they get $38,000. Well, on our pay scale, any teacher below $38,000, they'll get $38,000. It's not until year 8 that they would get $38,048. So year 8, they would get a $48 increase in pay. So essentially, they're on a pay freeze for 7 years before they get a $48 increase in pay. So that's not going to retain those individuals. So for us to be competitive, to be at the $38,000 base pay, because if we bump our base pay to $38,000, it trickles through our salary schedule, and then that increases pay for every teacher with experience. But for us to do that, that's going to cost the district $560,000, which is an annual reoccurring cost. We do not have that in our budget to do that at this time. To do that, we'd have to put some ballot measures out there, essentially just to increase the taxes. And I've got a slide that'll show you that here in a second. Last year, we had a 26% turnover rate for certified staff. So that's 29% of our certified staff, which is our teachers, administrators, left the district. So So what's below here is the position that was someone had resigned from and how many applicants. So this is data I have to submit to DESE in our core data. But going through here, superintendent, we had 1 opening. We had 6 people apply with a certification. So just because they have a certification, though, does not necessarily mean they're a quality applicant. It just means they have a certification from the state. So we had 6. Assistant soup, we had 1 opening. We had 4 people with a certification. Elementary assistant principal, 1 opening. We had 13. High school principal, we had 1 opening. We had 4. High school assistant principal, we had 1 opening, and we had 8. But then here's where it changes significantly, and here's what some of the challenges we have with public ed. And to give some background, prior to COVID, there was already a predicted teacher shortage. COVID hit and expedited the whole process, and then the aftermath. Students did not go from high school into college to get a teaching certification, and that's where we're at right now. Me and people who were in education, several got out. They went to a whole different career field, so we had a mass exodus of educators, and this is where we're still sitting. And this is where the state of Missouri is trying to figure out how do we get people back into education, and or how do we get high school students to go into education. But we're, in my opinion, a 4 to 7 year bubble still of a teacher shortage, and there's no good solutions on the horizon. There's some work being done. There's if you look up, it's called Blue Ribbons Commission, which is some business owners in the state that's working with our commissioner of education to try to figure out ways to incentivize people to get back into education. And they've made a lot of recommendations to the state, but the bottom line is they're just requesting more money, which again, going back to the taxes and the incentives there, we're taking 1.2 billion out, they're requesting more money. It doesn't add up at the moment, and I don't know that that's going to be an easy fix. But when we get back to the who directly works with our students and do we have quality educators, high school counselor, we had 1 opening. Or I'm sorry, we'll start with elementary. 1 opening. We have that filled, but the person filling it did not have a certification, nor did we have anybody apply with a certification. High school, same way, 1 opening, no counseling certification. They'll be finished with that shortly, but again, per state, no certification. These 2 and then the 1 prior, no certification. So counseling, people are not wanting to do counseling anymore. It's just, you know, there's a lot of concerns out there, a lot of just things to address there. Middle school, PE, we had 1 opening, we had 1 apply with certification, but they were not hireable. We had it filled, a good individual in that position, working towards, but no certification. Elementary education, 6 openings, 14 applicants. As a elementary principal, just 5 years ago, I would have an opening. For 1 elementary opening, I would have 15 to 20 applicants. I could pick who I wanted. Now, we're down to basically 1 opening, 2 applicants. It doesn't mean they're quality, it just means they have certification. Middle school, elementary, or I'm sorry, ELA, we had 1 opening, 1 applicant. Middle school math, 2 openings, 7 applicants. Middle school science, 2 openings, 2 applicants. And not saying the people we hired were bad, but just saying we hired who we had available. And this is where we're at too, trying to help professionally grow these individuals into quality educators. Middle school science, 1 opening, 2 certifications. High school ag, 1 opening, 2 certifications. High school ELA, 3 openings, 6 certifications. High school math, 1 opening, 1 certification. High school science, 1 opening, 1 certification. So as you kind of listen to this, you kind of hear the pattern. We have 1 opening, we have 1 person with certification. Do we wish we had more to choose from to have a better quality teacher for your child, absolutely. Again, not saying the ones we hired aren't quality or can grow to that, but these are just new first-year people or people who aren't fully certified or have that experience behind them. Special education, very interesting. We had 3 openings, 11 applicants. Those 11 sound great, but special ed is in such short demand. As soon as we got the application, we would call, and they already had a job with someone else because those districts were just saying, oh great, you applied, here, you want a job? So, very challenging. So these, sharing this is the challenge we have, that 26% turnover rate. It takes a teacher 3 to 5 years to master the content, and that's assuming they don't change grade levels. Even if they go from 2nd to 3rd, it's different enough that it's like starting over. So it takes 3 to 5 years keeping a teacher in that position to be a quality educator. Coming back to our lowest rate of pay, starts at $9.81 an hour. As a public school, we're exempt from the minimum wage. That will be $12 January 1st, 2023. We would need $86,500 to move the current classified employees up to $12. So that's another, $86,000 that's reoccurring. And that is without correcting the hourly wage schedule, which in my opinion needs to be revamped to do that properly. So that $86,500 may actually be $100,000 once that schedule's redone. Again, going back, proposed Missouri legislation will potentially remove $1.2 billion from state revenues. Additional discussions of corporate income tax reductions will remove additional revenues from our district. And then getting to where we are as a district, Crawford County R2 has a $3.51 tax levy rate, which there's a 20-cent Prop C rollback, making the adjusted tax levy $3.31. So that Prop C rollback has been on Crawford County R2 books since 1994, so it's been there for 28 years. If that 20 cents was back there, we could utilize it again. This year it would have yielded $300,000 from our industrial base, agricultural and residential. But right now we're at $3.31. So 56 cents of that has to go to our Fund 3, which is our debt services. So those are loans that we have taken out right now. So that goes there to ensure that those loans get paid every month. So 56 cents goes there. And then that leaves $2.75 that goes towards our Fund 1 and 2, so our incidental and certified salaries. And that $2.75 is the state legal minimum amount. So we have to have that. We have no choice. Right there operating, I say again, the board has done a nice job over the years keeping us in a good financial place, but we don't have money to do anything with right now. So going to the research of a 4-day school week has some financial savings. In some of the findings, schools reported up to 5%. We're at a $16.6 million budget. So I broke it out there at 5. Most of the research said anywhere between 2 and 3. I conservatively put us there at the 2.5, which would yield $415,000. 1% is $160,000. Actual calculated savings from transportation and utilities alone for next year would be $110,000. And again, that's actually a conservative number just for those. I used to do the math on the days. It would essentially be 15% savings that we would have. I used a 13% savings just to be conservative on those numbers. And then the other savings would come into consideration over the years. It's hard to calculate light bulbs or usage or different stuff like that, but different savings there. So some of the questions, why are we looking at this evening to make a decision? The benefits are, even though it's for the 23-24 school year, there is a lot of work that has to get done to go from point A to B. We're at October, but looking at it, if it's voted on, start retaining and recruiting staff, I can tell you right now there are several job openings still sitting out there. And when teachers told me a few weeks ago they were looking at other jobs, they can easily get one right now for somewhere else next year and move on down the road. Time to form a calendar committee and approve a 4-day calendar. That's a process that takes a month or 2, 3 months at times. So that gives the board to look at something November, December, January to approve. So that puts that already out to January. Time to adjust building schedules and handbooks. So middle school and high school more specifically would have to build out their schedules that way. There's adjustments in handbooks. Elementary would have to look at handbook as well to make sure all the times and everything are adjusted there. But that can't be done until calendar is approved to know what goes into that. So that would put it into a February, March timeline there. Time to adjust bus routes if needed. Again, we're looking at a 15-minute earlier start in the day. Talking to our transportation director, he said he could look at routes and should only be a 5-minute earlier pickup in the morning, adjusting some routes there. And then again in the afternoon, it would be in half an hour. Right now we're at, I think, a 6:30 is the earliest pickup, so that would be maybe a 6:20. And then we've been monitoring our last students right now in the afternoon are dropped off. I think yesterday was at 4:07, so adding 30 minutes to that, so 4:37, 4:45. So to me, we're not significantly later in the evening. Some parents actually made a comment that they would prefer if their child got home later because it give them time to get home from work to meet them there. Time to meet with the salary and hourly committees to adjust schedules. So if I know, because again, actual costs, I know I have $110,000 that would allow me to, have some meetings there to adjust our hourly rates. I know that's money we have. And then looking at salaries, we'll monitor over next year too, bring up that difference of that $415,000. There'd be money there to put to the base. So again, while that's not, $38,000 is not going to retain, if we could go to a $36,000 base, that's going to help a lot to have a $36,000 and a 4-day week. One of the things we're finding post-COVID is employees are not as concerned about bottom dollar. They're more looking at quality of life. Do I get to enjoy my work and have time to have a hobby or spend time with family? So just that mindset is shifted to there. We have several students with IEPs, and that's, I was a former special education teacher. There's a lot of work that goes into that, and as these meetings happen throughout the year, it gives time to get all that done properly. Those are legal documents and can be done versus a crash course in a month. It's a very, very overwhelming task. I've done that too, and it's very challenging, but it gives time there. Time for parents and guardians to make arrangements as needed. Again, a staff morale booster. I think we're in a good place. We're doing a lot of good things this year, but I think just talking about this and having this throughout the buildings, walking around, I think teachers are excited. Our classified folks are excited. It's one of these that says, hey, this is getting me through it. One of the things people don't realize, our teachers work 6 to 7 days a week. Some people think it's just all Monday through Friday, you're off on breaks, you're off on the summer, what's the big deal? Our teachers work 6 to 7 days a week. They're putting a lot of time in the evenings. If they didn't get something finished up in the week, they're coming in on a Saturday morning to finish out the week, or they're waiting until a Sunday. They're spending time with family or going to church, and then the afternoon they're going up to school to prep for the week, and then they're grinding it out another week. So this is what is causing a huge burnout rate with teachers. With a 3-day week, that actually allows teachers to say, hey, you know what, I can take Saturday and Sunday off because I can come up here on a Monday You know, they'd be up here one Monday a month for PD, but the other Mondays they can say, hey, I can come up during regular hours during the day and plan and prep for Tuesday through Friday. And there's some other studies out there, if you'll look, that talks about how many hours of overtime and the productivity. And some of those studies will show you can go up to 50 hours and still be fairly productive, but after 50 hours a week, 60, 70, 80 hours, you might as well not even show up because that productivity is not there. When you're fresh-minded as an employee, you're doing stuff and getting stuff done a lot quicker. Same in my professional experience found with students. Students were rested, ready to go. They knew when we're at school, we're learning. We don't have time to mess around, so we're doing good stuff. So with that, sharing all this, the big picture, kind of taking you through, and I appreciate your time. That's one of the longer presentations I've done for a while, but hopefully that answers a lot of questions on where this conversation stemmed from. Concerns we have in public education right now, challenges. I don't see any viable solutions on the horizon, to be honest with you. I personally think there's, you know, I've enjoyed 5-day school weeks, but with that you have to have the money behind it to really do what we used to do years ago. And going back to that, we're just in a different time in 2022 than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. To stay relevant in public education, I think we have to really take a hard look at making some changes and doing some stuff. There's a lot of benefit here. I had lunch with Dr. Gibbs yesterday at a meeting, and he shared, he's the superintendent at the Bourbon School District. He said last year, they went to this, from last year to this year, they had a 5% turnover with staff. I'd love a 5% turnover with staff. We could do so much more all the time. We spend training stays here in Crawford County R2. So with all these reasons and sharing with the board is why I can recommend going to a 4-day week and go ahead and propose that to you to the side.
So we all have questions.
So with this, I do apologize for the audience members. So during board meetings, it's not an interactive.
You said questions.
Yeah, well, you put questions up there for us to watch.
You said that.
Yeah, at the start, you said
You said you
we could entertain questions.
I would try to answer the questions that were asked during the.
You did
Oh,
not
we were
say
trying to be
that.
respectful and not interrupt you. Because I have about 1,000 questions.
We all do too.
We listened to 6 different people tonight during public comment. 5 of them spoke about the 4-day school week. And there was a lot of, why are you pushing for an answer tonight? When this was presented last month in September, I know that I for one had said that I see this being a pushed out decision because I think that your community, your students, your staff deserves the time that's put into it. There are questions all over this room, and this is the first time that they've been given this information. Aside from the newspaper posting it on their Facebook page yesterday, that is probably why some of these people even move it as an agenda item tonight. I don't know that it's actually I mean, I would like to hear their questions that they have, and I think that a public forum type question and answer with the board present would be a very good way to get those questions answered. I do have one question. On the the survey that was sent out, if you did not have a Gmail account or a Google account, were you able to do the survey?
You were.
So I was actually contacted by a parent that said that they were not, and they had contacted you about that, and they still weren't able to access it. And
So I walked them through that process and didn't hear back from them, so.
okay, I mean, that is one person. I don't typically have a Gmail account. I do because my school emails linked to it, so I didn't run into that issue. I have another comment here. Does anybody have questions? We're in the question phase.
think you should let us ask questions. I know you did before, but you just need to vote on that, because as a taxpayer, I got nothing for a survey.
Absolutely.
And that's
I'm the
not,
same way.
that's
I got
not
nothing.
fair.
It's up to the board if they want to allow us to.
I know.
So
If
that's
yeah,
been
that's true.
projected to them, and
So I will just comment that approximately 3 or 4 months ago, we had our attorney here in the boardroom with us. We did some boardroom training. We were highly advised. This is the board meeting of Crawford County School District. This is the board's meeting. The meeting is open to the public, and that's why the door is wide open. So, having that said, under attorney advisement, Dr. Davidson has asked the board if the board has any questions that he has not answered at this point. I know Jennifer's got one more.
This is a joke. One takeaway, I had several takeaways. There was a comment or a slide about the tax levy, and if anybody has studied that tax levy, we are the lowest of pretty much any surrounding district. I know that nobody likes to talk about paying more money, but that is one option at getting more money for our district. And I know that that's not a quick fix by any means, that is more of a lengthy process. But just in case anyone wasn't aware, we are one of the lowest around us. There was one comment that was made during the slide that maybe it just struck me as odd. But when we were talking about the last drop-off, the earliest pickup last drop-off, the comment was made that the parents said that it would help with their kid getting home later in the day, but yet the survey basically shows that the parents say that the extra day off is going to give them more family time, so it's a bit contradictory that the parents want their kids home later, but yet they want them there an extra day. That's just and you don't even have to respond to that.
Well,
It's
but I
just
will, because
it's
that
just
was
an
two
interesting
separate
takeaway.
parents and two separate comments. That was not the same comment from the same parent.
Okay.
So that's why there's a discrepancy.
One thing that I did hear back on the questionnaires for that question is that they like the idea of their student not being home as long by themselves before they got home. So that was one thing I heard from them. So I hope that same parent is going to be home on Mondays and not leaving their child home alone. Right, but that was, you wouldn't know that, no. I think that this is a monster decision. I, as a board member, feel extremely rushed in this. I think that our community deserves the time to give feedback, and that's with 200 responses or whatever. If your survey went to your junk email, you weren't able to give your opinion.
200 responses is actually one of the highest responses we've ever had, isn't it?
225.
Like that jumped out to me. That looked like in the surveys that the district has sent out, the usual response rate is probably less than 8%. I'm speculating, but that's just me. I didn't look at this until I wanted to watch a presentation. So am I accurate in that?
So statistically, you want at least 10% of your population sampling. We were at 32, so we're 3 times what is.
But usually when we send out a survey, we get nowhere near that level of response.
Right. So going back to the community response, going back to the 25% of individuals who have students in school, professionally looking at, we have 73% of our parents who chose to respond or in favor of. Those are our stakeholders. We have 91% of our employees who are directly affected, or our stakeholders have responded.
Taxpayers.
I would also go back to, though, I think that a very short survey doesn't necessarily give you that dialogue with your taxpayers, with your parents, and that is what I would like to see done. Once again, I feel very rushed in a decision. This was brought up as an idea a month ago, and then tonight I'm being asked to make a decision. Jason spoke about a training that we had with our attorney, and we had also made, maybe the attorney had made mention of, you don't always have to vote on things right away. Sometimes it's good to digest them. This slideshow took 1 hour, and even though I've had a couple of days to look at it, I still don't feel that I can make a conscious decision one way or the other. And I would like to hear verbally from our community. I would like the opportunity to hear verbally from our community as board members. And so I think I would either like to see this, I would like to see this table tonight.
Would you be able to do, like, this is just a few of them that came and heard and saw your presentation, but I think this has a lot of great information in it. But having questions, would you be open to?
Well, so essentially to answer that, I, in the emails, put out that there was 2 opportunities to meet, one before school, one after school, 2 different dates.
Right.
This was put in publicly in the paper as well.
Right.
The link to the survey was in the paper as well, which lately are ways we communicate information is through the public newspaper. Again, our stakeholders with our parents are represented, in my opinion. Our stakeholders as employees are represented in this survey. Presenting, where the perspective is from my seat as superintendent with our current challenges in education, unless you're proposing tax increase to the public, that's our other course of action.
Well,
and I don't necessarily
I'm just
see
asking
with economic.
a tabling to give myself and the other board members an opportunity to have meetings with the public. We spoke about Bourbon adopting a 4-day school week last year. I do know that they had scheduled meetings with their board in attendance.
They did, and they had 5 people show up.
It's not few.
I got more than 5 here. I
Give us the opportunity, please.
would just like to see this table to take the opportunity to listen to the community members. I mean, it was a lengthy sales pitch. That's just, I think that you did a great job putting it together, but I would like to hear from the community members and give them an opportunity to speak. When this was put on the agenda, and if you were going to speak during citizen participation, that happened before this presentation was presented. Nobody here knew what was going to be presented. Nobody has had an opportunity to speak to the points that were listed in this presentation.
I'm interested in the teacher response rate. To me, that was pretty important. 91% was a pretty interesting fact.
They got 20%, they got kids in schools.
So that was, and like I said, I came in and still have a very open mind. Whether or not, I think here's something for all of us, and I think, again, we're just talking to be mindful of is how, if we need to engage other stakeholders, then we should certainly give teachers that voice as well. Because I think one of the things that you really do is certainly, I feel like there's questions, probably some tension, and what I would want to be really careful of is I would never, ever, ever want my teachers to feel that my community doesn't support me, that my community doesn't have my back, that they don't understand, it's kind of there's a lot to consider that, because they've spoken, and I don't necessarily see that group of the stakeholder group changing their mind. And so I think that, back to, retention, if I'm here and I'm hearing ugliness or maybe not feeling the appreciation from the community, how does that help or hurt or impact us? And again, I'm not saying it will or won't. That's just one of the things as I listen to is that I'm really dialed into our employees, and when they say something that compelling, that was pretty eye-opening for me. The families as well. That was that was probably the largest survey response that we've had. That was almost 72, 73% that supported. That's a pretty significant response rate. Businesses or community was a little bit lower, still positive. So I think to this, and again, I don't feel whether we've got to make a decision tonight or not, but I think that a decision would absolutely have to be made within the next 30 days, because part of what people have to understand from a school board perspective is we're already doing reviews for our first year teachers this month. You start your teacher reviews really heavy, and get into your administrator reviews, which is already starting. You get really heavy into contracts. A lot of your administrative positions, your postings, your announcement of retirements, they come in October and November. So you're going to start seeing those, and you're going to start. We know this. We've lived this. That shell game starts, and it starts way sooner than what you think that it does. And by February we have to issue. January is we do our administrator reviews, contracts. Then you're into February, and so to think that this is something that you can to push off for a significant period of time, you can't. If you're looking to head in a direction of 2023, that decision does, I think, have to be made sooner as opposed to later, just because of all of the issues that you run into with how the school schedule works and all of the layers and dynamics that go into that. Another comment that I think, communication is everything, and I'm so thankful that everybody's here tonight to share their thoughts. And I agree how these meetings are structured is frustrating, because you want to talk and you want to hear what you have to say, but the legal side. So I would say to the part about, and this is just for understanding, about like feeling rushed. And so for educators that have been in this profession for a long period of time, or for administrators that have been in this profession for a long period of time, to them I don't feel like they think that it's rushed, because this is something that they've lived as professionals for a very long time and understand the profession better than any of us that aren't in that role could do. And so I think to our teachers and to our administrators and to those from that perspective, like this is not a rush decision, because this is something that you've researched, studied, been involved in with for decades. And again, I'm not advocating, just sharing, that what I know about education itself and the different viewpoints that people have, because one of the things that I would really like to see us do as a stay together is that one school, one community, one family. And I just worry that, worry is not the right word, want to be very mindful of our individuals that have been in the profession for an extended period of time, that understand this better than I ever will, because I'm not in the profession. I go to my medical doctor and they tell me my body's not doing what it's supposed to do. I don't argue with them. Say, you're wrong. Well, your blood work says this. Well, you're wrong. I don't do that. Maybe I should. But that's, so I think that there's probably that is a dynamic that's at play that's not necessarily visible, is that there are people that live this, breathe this, that understand this, that can say yes. So anyways, I just shared that as thoughts to the board and to the community, that I don't know if it helps or hurts, but I know that regardless of tonight or not tonight, I don't see this, there's no way, given everything that has to be done, that it could go another 30 days. If it's gonna happen by 2023 or not. That's just my thoughts.
And I would agree just as far as timelines. There, again, a lot of work that has to be done. Our administrator sitting right here has work that needs to be done, but we have a good administrative team willing and able to do if it is determined a 4-day week there. Again, appreciate comments heard tonight from everyone, but also just me going back and looking at survey samples. That is the largest survey sample population I have ever seen come back. And to sit here and say we've got 73% of our parents who responded positively and want this, to me that's our stakeholders. To see we have 91% of our employees respond, or the people that responded, 91% said we want this. As a superintendent who is in charge of hiring and retaining and attracting staff, how do we not listen to that and say, we've heard you, you are the ones who are showing up every day to work with our students, and we want to retain you. So just kind of sharing that, not that other people's voices aren't important, but I also feel like the survey reflected a majority. If this was a ballot issue, it was a clear decision on which way this went. One of the things just cautious with.
I don't want anyone to mistake my hesitancy in not wanting to vote tonight by thinking that I don't agree with the people who took the survey. I just think that it is important for myself to digest the hour-long presentation as well as the people in this room. And you know, maybe somebody would have selected their survey different if they could have seen this survey prior, or not the survey, I'm sorry, the presentation prior to taking the survey. It's a possibility. I just do not, I just feel very rushed and very uneasy in making what I feel is a quick decision for our community and our school district.
Do we have other thoughts, concerns?
If we were to have an open, I don't know if I'm called open forum, is that something that can be put together in a couple of weeks? So we would have that information back to us by November meeting.
I mean, we've had a couple of them.
May I ask, with any additional feedback you get, how would this change the outcome of a vote?
I'm not saying it would change the outcome of how I would vote. I would want our people to understand, and everyone that will show up, because then again, we've had these before and we've had a handful of people show up, but just show up, at least feel comfortable as to understanding why we voted the way we did. Because I don't, you know, if we vote tonight, say, okay, we're gonna go 4-day, well, we might have several people leave here upset, and then they're gonna go out in the community, and they're going to talk about what happened and how upset they are, and that's just going to spread out. But if you give them the opportunity, if they don't come, that's on them. If these are the only ones that show up, it's on everybody else for not showing up. You know, even though I don't have kids in school anymore, a lot of these people don't have kids in school anymore, but I still pay taxes, and I feel that that's how they feel also. At least give them an opportunity to speak the way they feel, to ask questions, because I know in other situations we've had, you've had some people come in, talk to you, well, that satisfied them, or at least gave them the knowledge of why the board does some of the things that they do. You know, we want all these people besides our stakeholders that have kids in school, we want them to support our decisions and not be unhappy or upset with our decisions that we make. They vote us in with the confidence that we're going to make good decisions for them. And that, I mean, that's the way I feel. That's just me.
If that's the direction that it goes, I think that's great. I think part of that voice would be to have some of our senior teachers give a perspective.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think a shared dialogue.
It has to be a community, school community, our district community. It has to be an effort by everyone to be there, not just us. But like if we ask teachers or administration to be there, we want them to be there. They've all got a stake in it, and I think maybe, you know, I think we can get it done. Now I may be wrong. I think we can get it done maybe next month. Vote on it. I would hate to wait any longer than November, because as has been explained as what goes on, you know, what the board has to do and the time limits that we have to get these things done. I'd hate for it to go on any longer than that if we want to put it into effect for the 23 and 24 year.
May I propose a special board meeting in 2 weeks versus 4 weeks?
Oh, I would rather do that.
I was actually going to say that if we do the form, that yes, that regardless of how it goes, I think, and again, this is just one of the processes and protocols, and just to try, you know, to the good or to the bad, the shell game starts for teachers and administrators in 10 days. You're going to start to see it. And I don't want us to be behind the 8 ball. We cannot be behind the 8 ball. Regardless of whatever direction it goes, we've got to be ready.
And I do like the hearing from educators as well as just yourself, so that, you know what I mean, you had all of this put this together, which was a great presentation, and I think it's had a lot of great ideas. And being an educator, I've got lots of things floating in my head right now, but I would like also, like Sherry said, just because I'd like to hear from our administrators. I haven't had a chance to talk to them to really say, hey, what is your thoughts? You know what I mean? I haven't had that opportunity just because we work, you know, in education, we're there 24/7, but I would feel comfortable just for me, you know, just to have that opportunity to be able to say, hey, what are your thoughts? And have, you know, as an educator, as a community member, you know, what is your deal with this, or what are you thinking? So I personally, you know, I would not want to go any further than that, because I do know timelines in education. But I think that, you know, to jump the gun tonight for me I'm not ready to do that either.
But everyone has to make a commitment to work, to be there, to express their opinions. Because basically, all I ever hear, and I don't mean this unkind, from teachers or community people, all I ever really hear is complaints.
Yeah.
I mean, someone is upset with something, so they're going
Things
to
you
come
want fixed,
in.
things you want
Okay, let's hear the good things too, but we're giving everybody the opportunity to get their questions answered, and to the best of our ability to explain why, when, if, how. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm just gonna say this out too. You know, social media just.
Can more than 10 people talk though? Can we have more people ask questions?
I would like to see
because if there's only 10, it's a waste of time.
I would like to see an open forum type of dialogue with, where it's not a board meeting per se.
No, that's
I want to
It's
see
just questions.
community.
What
I want to see
questions? What do they have?
community
What are they
and
questioning about
engagement.
it? Probably only
Where if
3 of us.
somebody
could
asks
be
me a
there.
question.
So another thing. Again,
You're talking about creating a.
Only 3 board members could be present if it's going to be a public forum, because anything outside of that constitutes an actual board meeting, which then gets back to
Pushes us back to this.
10 people. So it would have to be.
Can you not
something-
come as citizens?
No, if there's
No,
more than
not
4
like that.
together.
So that's a
If
law,
there's more-
you know, let 10 people talk.
So, in a board meeting,
No.
What we're talking about, and I have gone to Sunshine Laws. Where's the paper?
He's over there.
Rob, you'd be happy with me. I've been to several Sunshine Law sessions and stuff. But just to explain this, and just being on the board for as many years as I have been, yes, if you have 4 or more board members together, that constitutes a meeting.
it's a board meeting.
That is law.
That's correct.
So, what Sean says is true, unless we call and double check on it, because we want to do an open forum to get an idea of what everybody wants. Otherwise, you're looking at another meeting like this. Basically, we can't answer your questions. We just talk
Sherry,
back and forth.
I would consult with your attorney, but I don't see why you couldn't have a board meeting that is posted, it is open, and that you have a question and answer session during the board meeting that's the agenda item.
When Margaret was
Now-
here, she went into discussion on that, yes.
I would double check that. I mean, I don't.
That's what that's what I
really don't
just
see
said.
why
I
we
really
shouldn't.
feel that we need to double check that to make sure as if we all come or not.
Not that we wouldn't,
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be beneficial for all of us to come.
It would be, but to
it's-
stay in the realms of
And I
the law.
understand that,
Yeah.
but you would almost be looking at having 2 different meeting dates for 3 of us and 3 of us or whatever.
or if it's
Um,
televised, then people could watch it. So there's other ways to figure it. Just one of those things, just to be, again, I'm talking out loud because I wish I could talk and communicate. I can't, so all I can do is just.
Yeah.
And hope that it makes sense.
So at the end of the day, I need a motion. We have a motion in the board packet, but I need somebody to make a motion, whether it be that we,
I make a motion to table
We
this
reconvene.
pending a forum, a question and answer discussion with the public. The public forum. And I don't know how you do that. I move that we table this.
I think we, I mean, and I'm not arguing, no, I think we need to schedule a board meeting for November 2nd. I made that date up. It's 2 weeks from today. But, no. I mean, that was just 2 weeks. That's only.
You have to do
It would be the
weekend.
third.
Can I ask, are you looking for a meeting? Are you throwing a date out?
And/or, I guess.
To only have a public discussion and then this be placed on the November board meeting for voting, on the actual board meeting, to give the board members time to digest the questions that were asked? And I can answer my own question with how I think that should go, but
I'm holding 2 fingers because I think I'm asking for 2 motions. Because I think there's 2 topics on the
Yeah.
floor right now.
Yeah.
There's one topic of having another open coffee in the morning or question answer coffee in the morning. Coffee in the evening or whatever. And the second part is, in order to success, if we choose to go with the 4-day schedule, we have to allow our district ample time to implement it correctly. And that's what I heard Dr. Davidson say,
Right.
I got 2 weeks, but we've got to go, we've got to be on go. So 2 weeks today is something like November 2nd, 3rd.
Thursdays are wherever your normal night.
There you go. And so
And then 2 weeks later will be the 7th.
somehow we need something scheduled in the next 2 weeks for a, whatever this word is, open quorum. And number 3, before that open quorum, we can follow back up with Margaret on
What they can look like.
what that can look like.
Yes, yes.
And move from there.
So the first motion is to table this,
To
which
table
Jennifer
this.
is, but I don't even know if that needs a motion to table something, you just table it. So
Right. I do.
Yeah. You don't Just table it.
Have it on a day but a Wednesday, a lot of people go to church.
So I think,
I'm gonna call everybody.
honestly, the only motion that really probably needs to be had is the date of the special session, because if it's not, if it's an open quorum or something, that doesn't require any board approval, that's just logistics. And so that would be.
Angela, you posted and it's 2 weeks, is that what it has to be? Well,
How long do you have?
24 hours.
Okay, so you're fine.